And as I said before the break there, we are going to be talking to Mr. Cornelius de Swart. He's the technical director at S.A.M.E. Water, or S.A.M.E. Water, which stands for South African Mechanical Engineering Water. We're talking this morning about acid drainage and why the matter has become so urgent and why we have run out of time and that we must now act. We've run out of time. There's no debating anymore. We can't debate anymore. We don't have the time to do it. So let me say good morning to my guest. Good morning, Cornelius.
Good morning, Q.
How are you on this Sunday morning? Where are you calling me from? Is it Joburg or Cape Town?
No, I'm actually a resident of Alberton in the eastern part of Johannesburg.
Okay, all right then. Well, thank you for getting up this early to be interviewed. Now, acid drainage, Cornelius, tell me why it has become this urgent, because it's been an issue that's been talked about for years. So why have we run out of time? Have we not done enough?
I think, to start off with your question, has something been done? Absolutely. A few years ago, the government have put a lot of money aside. A plant was built in the Central Basin. It currently treats 72 million liters of water per day. So something has been done. The water levels in the Central Basin have dropped from, I think, 103 meters to 115. So the problem is being addressed. Currently underway is the construction of the Eastern Basin plant. That is also a neutralisation plant for HDS, that is high density solids, that's going to be settled out into tanks. So something is being done. It's not that nothing's being done, and the debate is still going on. And the next part of your question was why should we do this? Because what happens with abandoned mines is that the water level starts to rise. And the pH of this water level that rises is somewhere in the region of 4 to 5 pH, and it doesn't sustain biological life anymore. So when this starts to rise and decants, it affects the other water bodies in our area. And that is why it's so important that we keep on efforts to try and neutralize this water to a level where it doesn't contaminate our water resources that we use for drinking and agriculture at this day.
All right, Cornelius, you mentioned two basins. You mentioned the Central Basin and the Eastern Basin. Where are these located and which areas do they affect?
Just to mention to you as well, the Western Basin has a plant as well. It's not as big though.
Okay.
The Eastern Basin's plant will treat approximately 100 million liters of water every day.
Okay.
The Eastern Basin is located in the area of Springs.
Okay.
The Central Basin is located in Germiston.
Right.
And the Western Basin is located near, the name of the town of...
But it's on the West Rand.
Yeah.
It would be the West Rand. So we've taken care of the Central, the West Rand, and the East Rand, which is where most of the mining, the water would be affected.
Yes, we're actively involved in the Central and Eastern Basin. That's why I'm fairly familiar with those plants' construction.
Okay, so you said something is being done, but basically what you're saying is it's not enough. Now, what is being done is being done by government.
I didn't say that not enough is being done. I think, in the sense that the water table is dropping.
Yes.
It is being managed. I think that there's plenty other areas in South Africa where nothing is being done, which something needs to be done. But I think, the government and the officials, and especially the environmentalists and the activists, have done a lot to bring this situation to the forefront. The fact that the water table is dropping, I think there is a manageable light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay. What about you mentioned government, and you say, yes, something is being done on the side of government. What about the mines themselves? How much are the mines contributing to taking care of this issue, Cornelius?
It's not the best place for me to answer this question. However, I can say that I'm, fairly familiar that mines like Sibanye Goldfields have active programs to address these issues. And what you got to remember as well is not that every gold mine or any mining activity, for say, will definitely produce acid mine drainage, or as it's also commonly referred to outside of the borders of South Africa as acid rock drainage. So acid rock drainage and acid mine drainage is basically the same thing. And if there's enough buffering material inside, and the geologists have come to par now and understand how to really look at the mining activities to happen and to kind of suspect whether acid mine drainage will and will not happen. But many of these mining houses have recognized that this is a potential risk that they're on, and starting up with mitigating circumstances.
Okay, so they are doing well. They are taking some responsibility. Cornelius, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Okay, well that's good. So what more needs to be done?
I think, it's great that acid mine drainage has got such an audience currently. Yes. Because one of the things about water is that we're water scarce. Our water resources in South Africa is fairly scarce. But I think a lot of the focus also needs to be fixed on, biological oxygen demand, which is basically our water treatment plants that we use, and you and I use every day, and we flush down our sewer systems. I think those need to have a bunch of focus as well. Water is one of those substances that we can go to the stream, we can see that something's wrong, and we can trace it back to the source of contamination. And I think as much activism needs to take place in regards to our water treatment plants as well as for our air pollution. And our air pollution situation, that is a very difficult traceability, who pollutes the air. But I think a lot, and it's really, I want to take off my hat to a lot of the activists that's been out there, put the situation of acid mine drainage to the forefront.
All right. I just want to remind our listeners, I'm talking to Mr. Cornelius de Swart. He's the Technical Director at South African Mechanical Engineering Water. We're talking about acid mine drainage at the moment. We're looking at a wide range of treatment technologies and the solutions for tackling these problems. And we're talking about the different solutions required for different areas because it depends on the mining taking place in that particular region. If you have a question you would like to put to Cornelius on this Sunday morning, you are welcome to call us on 011-883-0702. That's if you're in the Gauteng area. In the Western Cape, it's 021-446-0567. You can also SMS me, 31702, 31567, tweet at Radio 702, and also emails to QUE@702.co.za. I do have a couple of SMSs that have come in for you, Cornelius. This is one from Jeff, who says, Q, please ask your guest about fracking and its acidifying effects on underground water. Could you tell us more about that, Cornelius?
I have to mention that my knowledge about this is because of involvement in some of this activities, and to comment on fracking would be really out of my comfort zone. Although the little that I know of fracking is that it's a process where basically horizontal drilling takes place in order to accumulate more gas. And gas exists inside of rock that contains this gas, and if you crack it up, you can have a further range in regards to the gas that leaks inside of your pipeline in order for your collection. I think the technology of fracking have moved miles as well. I want to say personally, that is just a personal point, is that I don't support it, because I think as a country that has already got a water scarcity, that we should, personally, I don't think that we should opt those options. We've got enough coal mines in regards to the ability to invest in technology for energy generation through coal. There is other technologies outside of what we're currently exploring that can shift the focus in regards to its risk.
Okay, all right. I suppose that's answered that question. I have an SMS here from Ken saying, listen, Cornelius, I'm struggling to understand the problem. What is the problem? Because you seem to be saying that the problem is being taken care of. So what is the problem and what can we do about it? That's the SMS I've just got in here, Cornelius.
Okay, great. That is a fair comment.
Okay.
So, Ken, if I could answer you the best way that I potentially can is, I think it's important to understand, for anybody that wants to understand acid mine drainage or acid rock drainage, we've got an open source nowadays called the internet and Google, and you can really arm yourself with so much education and opinions out there. Always be careful about who you listen to. Everybody's got their own agenda. developed in that area was more so a pilot plant. And I think it'll probably have its time when it's going to get upgraded as well. So the pressure needs to stay on.
Okay.
I think, and this is for the water table. Now, what's being done about these massive mine dumps that we have, I think that is absolutely another point of focus and an issue. But I know that lots of efforts are taking place for the remining of these mine dumps, and then these mine dumps are really shifted. If you think about the West End, about how many mine dumps have disappeared, and where are those materials going to? They're going all the way down to Brakpan. So those areas still needs a lot of focus and probably need, a treatment facility of their own, whether it be a chemical oxygenation or some new technologies. I think that there's definitely also the focus about the amount of energy that it takes to operate these plants and cost that it takes these plants. So managed, yes. Can we manage it even better? Absolutely, I would think so as well. I think the different marketplaces should be given an opportunity to expose their technology on a small 500,000 litre plant per day to show what they can do, and especially in the regards of energy consumption.
Okay, I see that some of the proposed policies by government to deal with acid mine drainage, one of the things they mention is a more integrated approach to mine closure. Exactly what do they mean by a more integrated approach to mine closure? From a mining perspective, it's again not the best question for me to answer. I'm not familiar with mining legislation, but a few mines in the Free State that we visited. If you think about the Aurora situation, those mines are levels that's critically high, and who's responsible for these mines? I think it really addresses those questions. It's a matter of if the mine runs out of money or the mine runs out of resources and needs to be closed, what is the mitigating approach? What should we do? What's the actions that we should take? Okay, and who will be responsible? Who will be responsible for the closure of the mine, and what happens afterwards? Does government then step in because the mine has already run out of money? So it depends on liability there. Who is liable for what is going to be? Okay, so we're looking. So government has. I think government has to come to the party with regards to that. I have got an SMS here from Willie before I go on with a couple of my questions. It says, "Hi Q, the acid mine drainage is as bad as the industrial and sewage drainage running into our rivers all over the country. Coastal town industries, Mpumalanga coal mines, Yuxke River, Natalspruit River, fracking is a mess for the Karoo. Fear not to speak, a mess." And this is from Willie. You want to comment on his SMS there, Cornelius?
Willie, I think your mess is absolutely an accurate word. There's no question about the fact that we should keep the activism up. We should keep the focus up. Both parties that's involved and those who just have to remember it's what we do, not who we can blame. It's what we can do.
Okay. And what about available technology, Cornelius? You've mentioned that we've already got the 3 basins working with technology which is quite effective at the moment. Are we using the best technology that is available to deal with this issue?
I think the correct way to answer your question is to say that we're using the proven technology.
Okay.
And on such a large scale as it's been put out there, this proven technology, I think it would have been a massive risk to say that we're going to try something absolutely new that is based on, facts or reports. If you think about some car companies can put out a report there, and the next thing you know, they've got a massive fine because they didn't exactly speak the truth. So I think in regards to your financial risk, I think the right decision was made. Let's take the proven technology, which is basically taking lime and neutralizing the water. Unfortunately, the water that is then produced is high in salinity, so there's salts in this water. It's less harmful to the environment. And in this specific case, the water that's being released into the environment, then the solution then is really dilution in regards to the salt content. But it doesn't even remotely cause the same damage as if the acidic water would have been released into the environment. So, but there's definitely other technologies. I would think that it would be absolutely the place of several of our universities to step in place and look at biological ways, look at different chemical ways, look at different electrolysis, per se, to to address the acidic water and see what else can really be done effectively. And of course, definitely also from an energy and running cost perspective, can we do this for less money and achieve something better?
And is there research going on currently at our universities with regards to this, Cornelius?
I hope so.
You hope so. Okay, so you don't know for certain.
No, unfortunately, I'll put my foot in my mouth if I say yes.
Okay, and then I have another question with regards to the type of which mines. I know around the Johannesburg area and the three basins we've mentioned, we're talking mainly gold mines, right? But there are other mines in different parts of the country. Which mines are the worst culprit, if I can put it in layman's terms like that? Does it differ? It must differ between coal mines, platinum mines, gold mines, etc. Which mines have the worst acid drainage, or is it all much of a muchness?
I think, I'm not going to mention names just so that you're well aware of that, but I think that all the mining houses that's out there now really do make efforts to address these problems. Their responsibility, they've taken that on. And I want to say that there's it's really our abandoned mines that is the biggest culprit. I mean, the moment that the draining of these mines stop, the weathering of the pyrite takes place, and, we've gotten, not necessarily always, but, we can get an acidic situation. Many of the mines, like I said, could have enough buffering material in the process where you don't run this risk. And it's really a place for a geologist to answer that question. But to say that it is a Gauteng area only, no, absolutely not. It is much bigger than just Gauteng only. Our immediate need is just here because most of us live here. Most of the activism takes place here.
Okay. I have an SMS here saying, exactly how bad is our municipal sewage treatment and what can we do about it?
A municipal situation, in the Gauteng area, I take off to the water authorities my hat here. They really do, in a big part, they do a great job. And I want to say that outside in our rural areas, one of the, absolutely epidemic problems that they sit with is theft of cables. If you have to imagine that a treatment plant is 100% requirement on electricity. If these guys have a power failure in regards to electricity, there is massive flooding that takes place on some of these plants. I would say that, in my opinion, the problem is pretty dire.
In the rural areas, the three biggest metros, I'm talking Joburg, Cape Town, Durban, they've got good sewage treatment plants, I did, with the big, like Randfontein that we have up in Joburg. I take it they're okay, but we're looking at smaller towns and other rural areas, right?
Absolutely. You have to remember that it is the town council's, prerogative to actually run such a plant, to upgrade such a plant. Okay. Although they might ask for money from the government, to upgrade these plants. And in many cases, the guys really do the best that they can. But it's one thing to build a treatment plant and another thing to guard it so that it stays operational. I think the challenges are immense.
Okay, then I've got another SMS from Sandra saying, raw sewage running into Boksburg near Springs. This is a Ramsar site. Can the local council be sued for negligence and dereliction of duty?
I hope so.
Okay, next question from Jackie. This is about acid mine water. The way I understand it, the water is not potable or drinkable and cannot be used for irrigation. Is this true, says Jackie?
Jackie, that is absolutely true. Yeah, like I said, what we want to see in water is pretty much an acidity of approximately 6.5 or more. And remember, when we go to the other side of this pH scale, it's as bad. Caustic soda, jick, those kind of things, that's, above, the 9-10 situation in regards to it's dangerous. But yeah, it's absolutely true when we reach lower level 6s, 5s, 4s, it's not good for much.
Okay, and so we've got to be careful what we use in our own homes, is what you're saying as well, Cornelius, and not just blame industry out there. It's like when we're using things like you've just mentioned a couple of products, we've got to be careful and try to use the one that's going to be less harmful to our water. I have one here from Pat who says, is government spending enough on this problem? Is it a priority for them? And where do we get our current drinking water from in Gauteng? And that's from Pat.
The questions that's been posed to me is it sounds like I'm a water expert, and then that's not exactly true. Like I said, for anybody that asks these questions, most of the really readily available. If from listening to shows like your own, as well as our internet. But to answer the question as good as I can, Randwater mostly pumps its water from different resources. There's now a massive pipeline project going underway. Not that we're involved with that one as well. That's going to bring millions of liters back to Randwater. Our water then gets purified to a certain extent at the Central Basin facility, and then it gets pumped into our system here throughout Gauteng, where we basically, till today, I drink my tap water. Mm-hmm. I want to just touch base on another comment that you've made prior to Pat's email, SMS, is that you have to remember, every single person that's listening to the radio, myself included, everyone, we're responsible.
Yep.
The way that you dispose of your batteries from your cell phone, the way that you dispose of those little funny light bulbs that you put inside of your house, you're responsible. Mm-hmm. If you throw those things in the garbage, and the next thing you want to know is you're going to mouth off because there's mercury in the water, just remember, did you contribute these fluorescent light bulbs that we have, that we put? If you see somebody throw those in the garbage, that's a high concentration of mercury that ends up in our landfills. Those landfills gets rained on. That rainwater gets collected and ends up in our water resources. Mm-hmm. Every single one of us is responsible to be an activist, but also to be proactive in regards to not your own, but also talk to other people about polluting, whether it be a plastic bag or whether it be a light bulb that contains mercury.
Cornelius, that's a brilliant note to end on. Personal responsibility. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
You're more than welcome, Hugh.
Okay, that was Cornelius de Swart. He is the Technical Director at South African Mechanical Engineering Water.